As we pull away from our starting coordinates at 40.64, -80.41, and settle into the westbound lanes of Midland Beaver Road, look directly out through the windshield. We have exactly 9 minutes to trace one of the most historically dense, highly specific, and world-altering stretches of asphalt in the American Rust Belt. You are riding the exact dividing line of the Ohio River Valley, flanked by the steep, heavily forested cliffs of the Appalachian Plateau to your right, and the massive, dark, churning waters of the Ohio River to your left. We are starting our drive in the borough of Industry. The name of this town is not a coincidence, it perfectly encapsulates the entire foundational identity of this riverbank. Industry is one of the oldest established settlements in all of Beaver County, completely predating the massive, roaring steel mills that would eventually conquer this region. In the early 1800s, this specific area was a massive, highly lucrative hub for frontier lumber and early boat building. Pioneers, desperate to push further into the unknown American West, would fell the massive, ancient oak, hickory, and black walnut trees straight from the steep hillsides to our right. They dragged that heavy timber down to the water's edge and constructed the massive wooden flatboats and keelboats that carried thousands of hopeful settlers down the Ohio River. The soil you are driving over right now formed the absolute launchpad for the great American westward expansion. As we glide steadily westbound through the quiet, highly functional residential corridor of Industry, look out to your left. Running perfectly parallel to our tires, right along the very edge of the water, is the heavy steel spine of the modern railroad. You are driving alongside one of the most vital, heavily trafficked freight corridors in the entire country. At any given moment, the earth beneath our vehicle could begin to violently vibrate as a massive Norfolk Southern locomotive comes roaring up this valley. Imagine the deafening, metallic screech of iron wheels against the rails and the deep, ground-shaking rumble of mile-long freight trains dragging specialized chemical tanker cars and raw material hoppers right past your window. It is a constant, heavy, mechanical pulse that has kept this specific valley alive for over a century. Now, I want you to look across the wide expanse of the Ohio River to the southern bank. As we follow the curve of the asphalt, you are driving past a site that completely and permanently changed the trajectory of human history. Dominating the sky across the water is the massive, hulking infrastructure of energy production. For decades, that opposite shoreline was dominated by the colossal Bruce Mansfield Power Plant, once the largest coal-fired power plant in Pennsylvania, its massive cooling towers literally scraping the sky. But tucked right next to it, right on that opposite shoreline, is the site of the Shippingport Atomic Power Station. In the 1950s, as the massive, soot-covered steel mills on our side of the river were blinding the sky with coal smoke, the United States government deliberately chose that exact spot across the water to launch the civilian atomic age. Under the fierce, demanding, and brilliant direction of United States Navy Admiral Hyman Rickover, the undisputed, hard-driving father of the nuclear navy, engineers built the world's very first full-scale, commercial pressurized water reactor right there on the riverbank. Think about the sheer gravity of this specific event. On December 18, 1957, President Dwight D. Eisenhower sat in the Oval Office of the White House. He reached out and remotely waved a highly specialized radioactive wand over a neutron counter. That electronic signal traveled over the telegraph wires, straight into the control room across the river from where you are looking right now, and the Shippingport nuclear reactor went critical. It successfully sent the very first commercial atomic electricity directly into the Pittsburgh power grid. The entire globe watched it happen. You are driving through a valley where the heavy, roaring, 19th-century legacy of coal and steel sat directly across the river from the absolute bleeding edge of the 20th century atomic era, both of them pulling their heavy industrial cooling water from the exact same ancient river. We are continuing our steady push westbound as Midland Beaver Road seamlessly becomes Midland Road. The quiet, residential architecture of Industry slowly begins to pull back, completely replaced by the massive, chaotic, and heavily industrialized footprint of a true, purpose-built company town. We are driving straight into the heart of Midland. Look at the sprawling industrial footprint that still dominates the massive riverbank to your left. At the turn of the 20th century, this entire area was nothing more than a quiet, sprawling farm. But by 1911, the legendary Crucible Steel Company took completely over. They did not just build a factory, they built an entire, rigidly designed town from the ground up just to feed their massive furnaces. Crucible was not pouring cheap, everyday, bulk iron. This town was the undisputed global epicenter of highly specialized, high-tech metallurgy. The men who sweated in the blistering, terrifying, 3,000-degree heat of the melt shops to your left were forging incredibly complex, cutting-edge steel alloys. The work done right outside your window directly shaped the modern military and scientific world. They manufactured the exact, specialized heavy steel that the United States Navy desperately needed to build its fleet of deep-diving nuclear submarines. They forged the absolute strongest, highly heat-resistant superalloys that allowed early NASA rockets to survive the friction of breaking through the Earth's atmosphere. They even churned out the specialized agricultural steel that mechanized the entire American farming industry. But the story of Midland holds a massive, devastating heartbreak. In 1982, the massive corporate conglomerate Colt Industries, which owned the Crucible Mill at the time, suddenly decided that making specialized steel in Pennsylvania was no longer profitable enough for their bottom line. In a single, catastrophic stroke, they locked the massive steel gates. Almost 5,000 highly skilled, fiercely dedicated workers lost their livelihoods overnight. The economic devastation was absolute and crushing. Midland lost nearly half of its entire population in the bitter, painful years that followed. The massive, roaring, 24-hour heartbeat of the town went terrifyingly silent, leaving behind empty storefronts and quiet neighborhoods. Yet, as we push deep into the commercial center of Midland, approaching the United States Postal Service branch, look at how the town has stubbornly, miraculously refused to die. Right in the middle of this former industrial giant sits the Lincoln Park Performing Arts Center. In one of the most brilliant, unpredictable civic pivots in the entire state, this gritty steel town completely transformed a portion of its identity into a world-class, sprawling hub for the fine arts. Today, it brings thousands of young students, actors, and theater patrons directly into the exact same brick streets where the steelworkers used to carry their heavy lunch pails and punch the time clocks. It is a stunning, living monument to Rust Belt survival and reinvention. As the forward momentum of the vehicle finally begins to slow to an elegant, deliberate stop right at 483 Midland.